Let's go.
AITA for yelling at a 19-year-old and asking for him to be fired? Throwaway account. I, 37M, and my husband, 39M, have been together 11 years. My husband owns a small bookshop and recently has hired a boy to help him. This lad, I'll call him Joe, is gay, and while me and my husband very obviously have no issue with this, Joe seems to do things a lot differently to us. For context, both me and my husband are Irish immigrants to London. We grew up at 20 minutes away from each other and went to the same very Catholic school. We aren't exactly flamboyant or outwardly gay and don't exactly do PDA, since that's how we were raised. On my lunch break from work, I like to visit my husband, bringing him records I think he might like, and his coffee. Recently, however, Joe has started making comments. It started small with him saying things about queer joy and how he loves gay couples, which we didn't mind at all. In all fairness, it's a fairly scary world for queer people right now. And I understand seeing a happy married gay couple means a lot for a kid. But then he started getting a little too comfortable for my liking. He started asking things like, "Who's the top?" and calling us the F slur jokingly. I think it's entirely inappropriate to be making those comments to his boss, but my husband told me to let it go. Joe calls us the F slur a lot, which I had brought up a few times, telling him calmly to not do that. But when he continued, I learned to let go despite my distaste for it, since it didn't seem to bother my husband too much, but last Wednesday I lost it. I was up by the counter when Joe came in. He immediately started blathering on about how you we are, and while my husband chuckled awkwardly, I did not. Joe noticed this and said I was a stick in the mud and repressed. I was trying to keep my cool until he called me a Fenian and I lost it. For anyone who doesn't know the term Fenian isn't exactly a slur or anything, but it isn't exactly nice either. Me and my husband jokingly call each other Fenians or Paddies from time to time if we've something particularly Irish, and I've never exactly viewed as a very offensive word to me, but something about this English boy made me snap. I asked him if he thought that was an appropriate thing to say to his boss's partner and started shouting. So, telling him he's way out of play, and if he wants to keep his job, he should buck up. I left to cool down a bit, and 30 minutes later got a call from my husband berating me, saying that Joe was crying and that he's just a kid. I do feel really bad since he's only young, but I still think he needed to be knocked down a step or two. Am I the asshole? Edit. I see a lot of people making comments about the nature of the relationship between Joe and my husband. My husband has asked Joe to stop on my behalf before, but this isn't something that really bothers my husband. And to be fair, it's his workplace, not mine. Comments. EJ underscore 1004, NTA. The kid is 19 and is old enough to know that saying harmful remarks in front of, let alone to address your boss, is not the way to go. Should you have yelled? Maybe not, but I can't say I would have done any better in your position. Honestly, apologize to your husband for the scene you caused. Mention that as long as the kid works there, you won't be going to the bookshop for favors or otherwise as he makes you uncomfortable. And after today, you're sure the kid would be uncomfortable as well. Let him know if you're willing to offer the kid an apology. I wouldn't, but maybe you're a bigger person than I am. And let him know that you don't want one from the kid as you find his behavior and language appealing and don't want anything from him. Irma Vep to 21. Apologizing to this kid for what? He knowingly called OP names after being told not to. Apologizing will only make this idiot young man think he's the victim, as he clearly has never been held accountable for anything. National underscore bus underscore 7,770. Saying sorry would just make him think he did nothing wrong. He's not some clueless kid. He knew what he was saying and kept pushing it anyway. Being young isn't an excuse to be disrespectful, especially at work. Honestly, OP held back more than most people would have. Super Pookie power. I don't want to draw a conclusion about what Joe's speech would mean in London, but where I live, Fimply's a specific type of gay man, and it is highly offensive. I don't want to assume that words have the same meanings everywhere, but to me, he really is speaking out of line. To anyone, much less his boss and his partner. I hope he can get his act together, but I understand why you would want to be through with him. NTA. OP. For me personally, it was more so the Fenian comment that sent me over the edge. Then the phones, and from my experience, it's essentially an all-encompassing word over here, and back home in Ireland, LOL, super pookie power. Over here, most people should not have heard the term Fenian outside of watching Peaky Blinders, so they probably wouldn't use it as a slur. But I can definitely follow your point about that one. It sounds like over there it is more akin to a racial slur, and those are always inappropriate. It sounds like Joe is really going to lengths to be offensive. Airy contrary. I could be reading too much into it, but it sounds sort of like Joe resents these two, apparently quiet and bookish Irishmen, not being the loud and proud older queer role models he would like to have. P, to be honest, I do think that's a part of it. He seemed disappointed when he came in on the first day knowing it's a queer bookshop and we didn't have a gay romance section. He has since added one without my husband's consent. Asterisk, asterisk, judgment, NTA asterisk, asterisk. Update a few hours later. Update. Joe is my husband's son. I won't go too much into the details for both my and their privacy, but I had a major fight with my husband about why he was being so lenient with him and why we didn't have my back in this. We were shouting back and forth until he shouted something about blood being thicker than water. I shout back about him being just some boy, and he stopped suddenly. Then he told me, Joe is from an ex-girlfriend of his who's now unable to take care of him, so my husband picked up. He's been paying child support for years. We each have our separate bank accounts, so I didn't even notice. I'm contemplating separation and divorce. Someone I've known for 25 years became a stranger in 10 seconds. I physically got sick thinking back on those sexual remarks that he made to his father. My husband always went white as a ghost when he said those kinds of things, and that was possibly the only thing he actually gave out to him for. But it makes me feel sick all the same. Comments. Chainblade 59. The update is absolutely insane. I'm sorry that you got hit with such an overwhelming piece of information. No perfect way to navigate finding out something life-changing like that, especially NTA now. I wish you the best of luck moving forward after finding out that he was lying for so long, and yes, hiding that information is absolutely lying. The underscore owl underscore syndicate. You have a husband problem. Pre-made cookie dough. My coworkers and I can casually throw around the word D-K back and forth at each other, and it doesn't matter, but I would never use that language around elder lesbians. I never had to deal with the negative effects of that word being used against me. The only reason my peers and I can so casually joke about it now is largely thanks to their generation being the ones who pushed back and loudly fought against hate speech. I consider it the highest form of disrespect to point that language in their direction. It's like pointing at a war-torn veteran with a toy gun and thinking it's funny to joke about shooting them. NTA kids gotta learn one way or another, and gentle warnings aren't getting through to him. It's time he learns that Pride Month aesthetics aren't what won us our rights. It's the quiet bookshop owners who survived years of pointed abdollery, directed at their sexuality, and live to provide a small corner where kids like him can feel safe.